So the first thing we want to do is open up a new Maschine project, and then we're going to load an instance of EZdrummer. Now, if you know Maschine, the architecture is a little different than working inside of a DAW. You have sounds, which can be a sample, a virtual instrument, a loop, whatever you want. And then you have the group, which the group is basically a submix of all the sounds. So if we load up a regular Maschine kit, we're used to having everything laid out with drums across the pads, right? If we come to a new group, what we're going to do is load up EZdrummer onto sound 1. I can do that right here in the software by clicking here, external, and I'll use EZdrummer VST version. It's loaded up, and you'll notice it's not spread across the pads. So what we want to do is basically make it functional so we can play it just like our Maschine group. All right? If you want at any time to open up the GUI, double click here, and now you can choose all of your different kits. So let's get to mapping it out. Anytime you're playing a 4x4 16-pad grid setup like this, it's super important to actually have the drums hit where they're supposed to. So when you load up EZdrummer for the first time, it's not going to play just like Maschine's factory kits normally do. So we're going to show you a quick way how to MIDI hack it, I say, in order to get EZdrummer to play just like a Maschine group. So the thing we want to do is get this instance of EZdrummer to play like a Maschine factory kit, which is laid out ergonomically, makes sense. You got your kicks, your snares, hi-hats, all easily accessible. When we load up that instance of EZdrummer onto a new sound, the problem is it's contained on this single pad. So to play it chromatically, we have to go Shift, Pad Mode, at which point all the notes will be mapped across the pads. The problem here is that by default, Maschine maps to C3. So if we want to get the kick, we have to come down to C1. So what I'll do is hold Pad Mode and octave down to C1. Which I have my kick. Right away you can see that really doesn't make much sense. Where are my hi-hats? Where are my snares? So to play this normally is a little awkward. So what we're going to do is actually trick EZdrummer to behave like Maschine's factory kits. And to do this, it's actually pretty easy. You set it up once and you'll never have to do it again. What I want to do is actually move my EZdrummer onto pad 16. You could have just selected pad 16 and loaded it here. Now that it's on 16, it's out of the way, so I have all this real estate of the other 15 pads. And we are going to start actually MIDI mapping the pads to the specific notes we want to trigger EZdrummer. The way we do this is from the software, you can come into the channel section of Maschine, and at the sound level, make sure you're on the output and select MIDI. At this point, with the pad selected, you can select a destination now. Right away, you'll see Sound 16 EZdrummer, which is basically hosting the sounds. Once I select that, pad 1 is now triggering pad 16. I can even mute pad 16, and it's still going to trigger, so I don't have to worry about accessing it twice. Now the only problem is we want to make this the correct note. Well, you see you have a MIDI transpose right here. So by default, remember C3. If I want to get this down to C1, I'm just going to take this down -24, which is 2 octaves down to C1. And now we're triggering my kick. So what we can do is just double click here. I'll call this kick, and we'll move on to pad 2, at which point it's just rinse and repeat. Sound 16. The MIDI channel isn't really important here. We'll just transpose down 2 octaves to have the kick again, and then we'll go up 2 notes, which should be the snare. And again, following that same setup. If we want, you can really kind of dial in specifically whatever sound you want. You can even just turn the knob until you hear which kit you're triggering. So you do this for everything. This is called my hi-hat. Here's my kick, my snare. You can even right click and change the color so it's easier mapped out. We'll have our kick red, my snare will be green, my hi-hat's yellow, and so on. You can populate every single sound like this for all of the 15 pads because 16 is not going to be used, it's just going to be hosting your EZdrummer. Now, if you want to see which notes you're supposed to be triggering, you can always just drop down in here, look at the details of each drum, and it will show you exactly which key you have to get to. So it's very easy to set up once. Once you have it all created, you can actually right-click in the group name and save your kit. If you don't want to do it yourself, we've gone ahead and done it for you. To access any user groups, you simply come into the browser and select this little icon, and you can see your different kits. So if I load up my default EZdrummer kit, I set it up once, never have to think about it again, it's already color-coded. I have my toms in blue, I have my cymbals in purple, my ride, different variations of a hi-hat, and we're good to go. The other great thing is you already have all your controls laid out. So by default, EZdrummer maps out inside of Maschine, so I can control whatever controls, whatever parameters are inside of this EZdrummer kit right from the controller.